Moore is our latest banner unit in War of the Visions, and boy does she look good. Her water magic attacks are perfect for taking out King Mont, and her magic resistance means that she can fight Black Rose Helena head on. Are you getting excited yet? If not, let's take a look at her kit and see if we can get you there. Thank you as always to warofthevisionscalc.com for the information used in this video. You can check them out on Patreon and support them. Let's take a look at Moore. She is a water unit 90 cost, which is going to be a trend from now on. And I'm actually pretty excited about that because it has some good implications for cost limited content. So her main job is Kododama wielder, and she also has the red mage and cleric sub jobs. She uses maces and then has your typical hat, cloth, and accessory. We can take a look at her TMR, and it's a pretty cool accessory. It gives you some HP, spirit, and crit avoid, but it has a good TMR skill, so it's a ranged buff that gives 15 spirit, nullifies sleep, slow, and berserk, and then gives some faith for yourself. So this is really powerful because it nullifies berserk, but also gives a pretty healthy amount of spirit as well, and it's also a cool buff that we haven't seen in a while where it doesn't go around you. You can cast it from a range. This type of buff is very good at keeping people back when you need to adjust their AI, but it's also just an incredibly good effect. We can definitely expect people to be using this to counter King Mont. Then if we take a look at Moore's Master Ability, it's your typical water buff for HP and water attack. Then she gets 15 magic resist penetration innately and 10% more magic resistance. Taking a look at Moore's resistances, they're pretty good. So the fact that you have fire resist at 20% is obviously a big deal with King Mont in the meta. Lightning is not the best element to be weak to, but overall I think this is very nice to have some more water units in the game. So then we take a look at the damage resistances, and there's not really a lot to look at. So the 10% magic resist is actually 20% because of her master ability, and then otherwise she has that 5% resist to missile, and then not really anything else going on in the other resists. So she's definitely going to be somebody that's easy to one-shot with any sort of DPS, except for magic attack based DPS. She'll be able to take that quite easily because she also gets some magic resistance on her kit and magic barrier on her kit. So that's the type of matchup that you want to put her into. Then we can take a look at her status ailment resistances, and she has some pretty good ones as well. So we already know that she's going to nullify berserk with her TMR, but then she also has 50% disable resist, which is the other status ailment that Mont is putting on people. And then with a mage, it's always good if you have silence resist, which she has, and confusion is another powerful resist that's going to help you against Agrius eventually, I guess, when she comes back, but it's also going to help against those Black Rose Helenas whacking you with their staffs when they get berserked, which always seem to inflict confusion on me. So I don't know. Let me know if that's how it goes for you too. Taking a look at Moore's stats, she is more in line with your typical magic attacker. So her HP is okay, but it's not super high for any sort of damage unit. Her AP is unfortunately that half starting point for HP like a red mage, but she has a very high magic stat at 532. Her dexterity and luck are also very high, and her agility is very solid at 63, and she even has a little bit of spirit on her kit. We can take a look and see if it's worth taking her to 120 versus 115, and of course that 120 skill is always in play, but we can take a look at the stat gain to see if it's a big deal. I will mention here that while there's no agility added on, 58 magic is a pretty decent amount, and then otherwise HP is 190, and that's actually not the highest amount that we've seen. So far the stats, I think you could make a case either way to get that extra magic, but at the same time, if you are free to play or you are a casual player, then 115 in stats is going to be just fine for you. Next, we're going to break down Moore's kit, and her support abilities look pretty good. We have a ton of choices here. So magic up level 1 is always a good choice if you're going for more power. Some initial AP, it's good, but unfortunately it's probably the skill to cut. Then she gets an upgrade to her Kododama wielder's passive here in order to get another 6 spirit and then 12% more HP. So those combined, while it doesn't look like a lot, actually does equate to more defensive capabilities when you're taking magic based damage. And then otherwise from Cleric, she can get 15 more Spirit, so she could stack a ton of Spirit to go against any sort of magic-based attacker, but then she can also just add 15% more magic resist. If you know you're going up against Yuna, Helena, Moore teams, for example, you can really just load up on magic resist and be impervious. Then we can take a look at the counter abilities. So we have the general all damage reduction counter, we have the magic reflex, and then the counter heal, the auto cure. So auto cure is so powerful if you can survive a hit. With Moore, she can definitely heal most of her HP with this, but for the most part, I think you're going for magic reflex as long as Helena's in the meta. Now, if you happen to be going against a bunch of physical teams, then you're probably going to use the damage reduction and try to survive at least one hit, but you'll have the chance to mess around with this if you're so lucky to pull her. Taking a look at Moore's main kit, there's lots of good things going on here, and we're all very familiar with Kododama Wielder at this point. So she does have a 100% hit attack, although she needs to be pretty close to use it. We've got the movement increase, and then we have Magic Barrier, which has been upgraded in her EX job, and this actually gives Shell for 3 turns and Regen for 3 turns. So this means that she's going to take so little magic damage, and if she does take magic damage, she'll heal it over time, and she'll be good to go. Otherwise, she has some pretty big AoEs with some pretty high potencies. She has your magic attack and spirit penetration buff, and then she has a new job level 25 skill, which decreases magic by 39% for 3 turns for target, and has a chance of inflicting silence on that target. This is also a large potency and a big AoE. So this skill is very impressive. Now, of course, if you're playing against Yuna, she's already going to have silence resist, but Helena doesn't. So Helena users, if you're fighting against a lot of Moors, you might actually have to put on some silence resist for her so that she doesn't get hit by this ability. When we go down to the sub job for Kododama Wielder, there's nothing crazy here. We do get that big step in magic potency skill, but again, you don't want to get that close to your enemies. So really, this isn't something that I would be using. What I would be using is the Red Mage sub job, because you get the skill, Jamming Thrust, big range, height difference, you name it, good potency, cancels casting times. This is a really great skill to be using. You also get a little bit of a heal if you need it, and then also Asuna, which could be useful in some areas as well. With the Cleric sub, you actually have a really good option here, which is the Light and Dark Veil. So if you have these mono light teams or mono dark teams, these dark resistance and light resistance by 25% is actually pretty significant. So to have her casting this on your team at the start of a fight could be pretty impactful if you can get everybody to group up. So definitely something that I think you should experiment with if you are using her, even though Jamming Thrust is the best. You also get access to Banish, which is a light type skill, and that is kind of useful in its own way, but at the same time it won't benefit from any sort of water attack up, so you know, it's not that important. And then finally, we have her Limit Burst, and it is awesome. So you'll see the animation in the video. It looks really good. It's a high potency skill, big AoE range, and then the Water Imperil. So you can have your Tidus, you can have your Ramada, your Ildiro, whoever, follow up and deal lots of water damage to your opponents and just take people out. It's going to be fantastic. You see this one a lot when you watch matches online of Mort and JP. She uses her special a lot because it's super powerful. Next, let's compare more to other magic users, and we have Helena and Luelle on the screen here. So Helena is our standard. She gets a huge amount of magic that's not represented here because she has that 60% magic increase passive. Helena also has a huge AP reserve and good HP and just decent resist, all this stuff going for her. With Mori, you're going to lose any sort of ability to deal with physical damage, but she's going to be so good at taking on magic damage with all her spirit, her magic resist, her barriers. It's something that Luelle can't do. So while all three are going to be they're all capable of being your magic carry, they all do something differently. I mean, Helena's just the best out of all of them, especially with her TMR, but Moore is going to be able to do more range with her Jamming Thrust. She does have 100% hits that Luelle doesn't. At the end of the day, I'm not saying that, well, Helena is better than the other two, but I think they all, I think Luelle's really risen in my eyes. I think that if you have Luelle, that's actually a reason not to go for Moore, because you already have this magic carry. And the difference is that if you want someone specifically to fight other magic comps with, then Moore is going to be really good if you have water units and you want to pair there. But I don't really see a reason to, rank these units here because they are all going to accomplish the jobs that you need them to for your account, and they're all good units. And so the question must be asked, should you pull for more? And I think there's a lot of pros for that. She has a 100% hit attack, she has high magic power and magic resist penetration. She also has high spirit, high magic resist, and high fire resist, and those are all very powerful in the meta right now. Now she also complements other magic users with her Kododama buff, and she can increase her move and jump to navigate any map. Finally, she has jamming thrust, one of my favorite skills in the entire game. She does have some cons, however. She's weak to physical damage, and she's definitely weak to lightning damage, which we're going to be seeing a lot more of soon. And she also has no cast time reduction, which I don't think is the end of the world, especially with jamming thrust, but it is something to consider that she will have to cast a lot of her spells and could be interrupted by death or other jamming thrusts. And then finally, with her half starting AP instead of the 75 that other mages get, her expensive LB is going to drain her AP really quickly, so you might actually need bells on her, or she just has to buff up a certain amount of times, but she's going to be one-shotting a lot of units hopefully, and that's going to help you just finish the fight before you need to recharge your AP. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say if you already have Helena, if you already have Luelle, then this is actually an easy skip because there's lots of good stuff coming up. We might even get the summer units, and it's easier to go at this point and say, well, I can get these units later and then go for limited units when they pop up, like FF7 or the summer units, or maybe even the winter units. So for me personally, I'm going to be skipping, but there's a lot of reasons to go for her if you don't have a magic carry yet, if you're big in the water elements, or if you just want to complement your Helena and your Yuna and have this amazing Kododama team that can really deal some damage to different people, then yeah, that's great. You can definitely go for her. I just think that there's definitely going to be a short window for her to do lots of damage to the current meta before the lightning meta comes in, and I think that's kind of cool because lightning units are going to counter these water units, and then earth units can counter the lightning units, and we might have kind of a rotating meta at some point here, and I think that would be very fun to see if that's how it plays out. Or maybe Helena will just rule all with Dwayne and with Garvel and other dark units. Well, that's going to be it for this video, and I hope it was useful to you, and if it was, you can tell me in the comments below. Let me know if you're going to be pulling for more or if you're going to skip, and if so, what are you saving for? Otherwise, I'm going to see you in the next video, but if you want, you can catch up with me on Discord, and the link for that is in the description below, and feel free to subscribe to the channel for future content. All right, see you all next time.